today is the 12th story time. So it
Yes.
completes 12 months of this happening, which is pretty good. And so hence we thought 12th Night would be a fun theme, even though it's nowhere near that time of year in terms of what 12th Night is.
Yeah.
And in this story I've incorporated the poem bits into the story, so it's all just one thing. It's very fanciful because it's all a masquerade. So.
Should be. Yeah.
Here we go. The 12th Night. A time of intrigue, masquerade, misrule and mayhem. A space where our roles are reversed or forgotten. This is a story inside that unruly space. And it all begins with a poem. Welcome, friends, to the Poet's Valentine's Masquerade. I will be opening our evening with a poem of my own, entitled, very originally, Masquerade. My goals, the heart of me, my true face. To you, like holy truth. To me, life. To others, a sacrilege, the stain under the tablecloth. Which am I? Who is right? We don't ask that. Instead, we craft masks. One for them, one for you, one for me. Only I am one of these, and I know my mind, I'm sure. Which is real? And who lives in the mirror's shadows? In the masquerade, our masks are shown, exoskeletons on display. Who are we now, if not the most real? Now the true faces will speak. Vin turned dramatically on her heel away from the mirror, her dark waistcoat and glossy boots leaving shimmering ripples of shadow in the glass at the corner of her eyes. She swirled back and took a bow, and the peacock blue bow tie she was wearing fell to the floor. Stupid clip-on thing. If she could just tie one. Leaning down to pick it up, Vin made the shadows in the mirror dance again. The candlelight had been intended to get her into a dramatic mood, but now it was just making her jumpy. In Chinese mythology, there were stories about those half-seen movements in mirrors. She didn't know a lot about them, but she did know the creatures of the Mirror Kingdom weren't supposed to be friendly. She straightened up and blew out the candle. The room went dark, the deep blue twilight dark of shadows through glass that meant it was almost time to go. Vin turned to make her way carefully to the light switch, her eyes struggling with the loss of contrast. On the fringes of her hearing, she noticed a sound like the rustle of wooden wind chimes, or a wooden slap-bind tapping in the wind. And somehow, instinctively, she whirled and raised her hands. Her fingers closed around something made of a thick suede-like fabric. Vin stared in disbelief. The last thing she had caught was probably the flu. Hand-eye coordination never having been her strong point, Vin's general experience of flying objects was one of them resulting in a bruised face. She unfurled the item and frowned at it. "A pencil skirt?" she exclaimed out loud. "I do not own a pencil skirt." It was navy and slightly furry, with a glamorous sheen. The fabric had a slightly satisfying squishiness to it beneath her fingers. Floof! A second fabric something, silky and fine, landed where she was more accustomed to airborne objects appearing. On her head. "Time to get changed," said a voice much like her own. "What?" spluttered Vin. "I planned this suit a month ago. I bought a set of tails." She strode crossly up to the mirror and stared intimidatingly at her reflection. "I am not changing my mind." Vin in the mirror blinked innocently at her. and held the satin blouse up to her shoulders. Vin in the mirror already had her masquerade mask on. Vin in the room cautiously raised her hand to her face, trying to look casual so she'd feel less stupid for checking. She touched her nose in a way that could easily turn into a scratch if she was wrong. Her finger met skin. Vin in the mirror reached for her face too, but instead of running a finger down her nose, her hand met the black sequined edge of her eye mask, and she pushed it casually up into her spiky hair and grinned. "I'm here to make sure tonight is fun," she announced. "Now, stand back, would you?" Vin glared. "Why should I trust you?" She stepped back slowly, not taking her eyes off Vin in the mirror for a moment. The blue light in the room seemed to intensify to a kind of forced peace, and the glass of the mirror glinted and dulled for a moment to the soft colour and texture of sea glass. The candle in its cup was still dribbling wax, and Vin's mind flashed back unbidden to the moment when she'd lit it, seeking to create some sense of mood and drama. I did wish for a twin or a sister, she remembered. She'd just had a message from Annie, saying neither she nor Bryn and Ella could make it tonight. Poetry just wasn't many people's thing. Vin often felt as if she was locked out of some other world in which everyone but poets lived, escaping the need to hear their friends recite. They'd seem to be taking an interest, and then, bam! Suddenly, they'd close the door to their poetry refuge and disappear from her life until her latest event was over. Siblings, Vin felt, would be obliged to remain. And what's more, they could be counted on to break rules first, which meant that no one would care about whatever it was anymore, and it wouldn't be Vin's job to change convention. That would be nice sometimes. Vin in the mirror pressed her palm against the sea glass-toned surface and moved it aside like a curtain, stepping unabashed into Vin's room and plonking herself on the bed. It should have been frightening, but Vin was too busy being affronted by the pencil skirt. "I'll fall over in this," she told Mirror Vin. "I'll waddle with teeny tiny steps like a penguin and topple over at the slightest bump." Mirror Vin was having none of it. "Get changed. Out. Waistcoat is terrible." "It isn't terrible. I loved it last week." Vin looked at Mirror Vin incredulously. "Besides, you're wearing it." Mirror Vin shook her head. "Never mind that. It's wrong. Anyway, we can't wear the same thing because I'm coming." "What?" Vin threw the waistcoat. "You can't come. You're me. People will get confused." Mirror Vin buttoned a pocket handkerchief into place. "Call me Violet. Just because other people are being sensible doesn't mean we have to be, does it? What would be the point of a masquerade if you didn't get to confuse people?" Vin stamped her foot. "No one calls me Violet. I'm not a flower. My friends will see me in it." She broke off, remembering they weren't coming, before she could mention the dreaded item of clothing. She sighed and began stripping and swapping layers, throwing the suit bits at Mirror Vin, or Violet, she thought grudgingly. 5 minutes later, Vin stood before the mirror with a soft, low-cut blouse tucked into the pencil skirt, while Violet, attired in full suit, tails, and black mask, insisted on applying red lipstick to her lips. "My butt feels stuck," Vin complained. "Is it supposed to feel like this? What if I can never take it off again? What shoes are you expecting me to put on?" Violet rolled her eyes and brought Vin some brandy. "Some of us," she said, "have no sense whatsoever, and it is our duty to use that fact to our full advantage." She donned a top hat with a flourish, and handed Vin a latticed gold and navy mask that, when Vin put it on, snaked across her brows and cheeks like a vine climbing a trellis. The venue was the cheapest locally, and as a result, the caretaker would only let them in to set up 1 hour before the event was scheduled to start. Therefore, Vin's car, along with those of fellow poets Carrie, Matt and Rena, had been used as a storeroom for fully assembled strings of balloons, rolls of paper to be used as tablecloths, raffle tickets, display stands for poetry pamphlets, and spare folding tables and chairs, as well as cables, lights, microphones, and a projector. Vin looked at Violet as she opened the driver's door. "You're just gonna have to get in there somewhere." Violet ducked her top hat under a microphone stand and seemed to evaporate into the jumble in the back seat. When they pulled into the gravel car park, Vin had a bit of a sinking feeling. A group made up of 2 of the other poets and an older man, who looked as though he was probably the caretaker, were standing at one side of the building and taking in turns to peer in a narrow window. She pulled up near them and got out, hands on hips. Violet of the mirror was nowhere to be seen. "What's going on?" Vin looked at Rena, who was teetering on heels higher than the ridiculous boots Violet had chosen for Vin, her neck adorned with many strands of beads. Rena looked uncomfortable. "You look nice, Vin dear," she said, in a tone which made Vin feel cross. "This is Alfred. Unfortunately, we've got ourselves into a bit of a pickle." "I gathered," Vin replied in a dangerous tone. It emerged that Alfred had opened the toilets first, put down his bunch of keys inside the gents, and forgotten about the inexplicable deadlock on the toilet door, which needed to be deactivated. The main hall was as yet unopened. The foyer was full of everything from Rena's car, and now the gents' toilet was locked again, with the keys inside. "Isn't there someone on the Halls committee who has keys that we could call?" Vin demanded. Alfred explained that 2 key holders had gone on holidays overseas, and the extra key they'd recently ordered was yet to arrive. "It's technically possible to get in this toilet window if you can get up on the porch roof," Alfred said, with the confidence of someone with teen experience. "Only if you're slim, though." He patted a round beer belly to indicate that he was no longer up to the task. Carrie had broad hips and a dodgy sciatic nerve, and Rena had osteoporosis and couldn't risk a fall. "Where's Matt?" Vin asked. "Coming by bus. He fell over the vacuum cleaner and is on crutches, so he can't work the clutch in his car." Vin raised her eyebrows at the idea that someone would own up to causing their injury by falling over the vacuum cleaner, and wondered what really happened. But she had other problems right now. "So, what you're actually telling me right now is that I have to get up on the roof and through that gap into the gents' toilets in a pencil skirt and stupid boots." Rena opened her mouth in a way that made Vin suspect she was going to comment on Vin's outfit selection, but seemed to think better of it. Where was Violet in her trousers now? Vin sighed loudly. "Help me get onto the roof." After a very ungainly leg up from Alfred that involved wiggling on her belly over the edge of the roof since she couldn't raise her knee, Vin knelt, hanging onto the windowsill on top of the porch. She could see Alfred's bunch of keys on the sink across from the urinal, which was directly under the window through which she was expected to climb.
That's gonna be good.
Definitely never wearing these boots again, she thought, as she attempted to insert her legs through the narrow window without tearing the skirt. She almost got stuck with her head in the window and her feet dangling down into the urinal. Made an ungainly descent which confirmed her stockings as another sacrifice to the urinal pea gods, and emerged from the toilets in possession of the bunch of keys and a very determined expression. "In," she said to the waiting collection of poets. "Start with the tables and chairs and microphones. Balloons and frills are a secondary concern." She held open the door to the main hall. When they were all inside, she went into the ladies to clean her boots, repair her hair, and have a stern word with Violet. The bathroom mirrors, however, seemed to lack something in the Violet summoning department, and no second Vin appeared. Vin put her mask in place, wrapped a coat around her slightly dishevelled outfit, and went to put up balloons. Violet was on the stage, doing very little apart from appearing to boss around Matt, who was unravelling the microphone cables sitting down with his leg sticking out. Vin huffed in disbelief and quickly dragged some balloons over to hang in the back corner. She couldn't go up there now. Everyone obviously thought she'd got changed and Violet was her. She arranged the string of balloons along the back wall, glancing over her shoulder every now and again to glare at Violet. Violet studiously avoided her gaze and kept glancing instead at the bar staff as they opened the bar, full face masks hiding who was who and clearly causing confusion between them. Vin wondered if she could sneak off. Would Violet perform her poem? A figure in a cat mask appeared beside Vin and nudged her elbow, holding out a bag. Inside was an identical outfit to Violet's. Vin looked back in the direction of the stage and mouthed, "What are we doing?" But Violet just grinned and shrugged. At 8 o'clock, the hall swarmed with masked audience members, a much more satisfactory crowd than Vin had expected. Rena must have blackmailed everyone in her church group or something. Vin moved among them with a feeling of strange freedom, unsure who anybody was and not especially concerned. As she stood talking to Matt and waiting her cue to open the evening, a fully masked member of bar staff sidled up, handed her a free drink, kissed her on the cheek and vanished into the crowd, saying, "Celebratory tidings to you, Queen of Poets." When Vin finished her poem, a crowd in cloaks cheered and raised their glasses, and somebody approached asking if she wanted strawberries in her champagne, which Vin had not asked for at all, but she accepted nonetheless. At 9 o'clock, a child in a bear suit appeared on stage, announced that she was the guest feature poet, and unrolled a long scroll. "But the feature poet is a PhD student from..." Vin began to object, feeling rather lost, but the crowd around her went, "Shh," and Vin shook her head. "I once met a mouse in an old hay barn under the whispering cover of darkness," began the bear-suited child. Suddenly it was 11 o'clock and the masked crowd poured outside, towing Vin with them, stuffing bits and pieces into cars, singing and shouting. Vin found herself at home, looking once more into the mirror, a sense of strange hollowness descending. The event was over, and she almost could not remember it. Violet sidled into the room behind her, leaning a little under the weight of what looked like a chocolate bouquet. She put it down on the dressing table and frowned at Vin. "Do you think that because you're responsible and setting out for bed, the night's cake and laughter are over?" she said. And with that, seemed to step into Vin's shadow and disappear. Vin sighed. She picked up a pen and wrote as she spoke aloud. The pieces that form this whole, you never once can piece together, liking only faces of the diamond, shown to you under lights, other faces hidden by the shadow. Nonsense, said Violet from the mirror, peering once more back at Vin from the glass. Life is many-faced for all who know it, and rain will fall desired or wished away. The many faces that you speak of now are life for all, and all of these are made. Now, I think you should go downstairs. Vin did as she was told, to find her kitchen occupied by the cloaked and masked party who had cheered her poem, and in some cases, manned the bar. Surprise! They shouted, and raised their masks to reveal the faces of Annie, Bryn, Ella, Matt, and assorted other friends who had never RSVP'd at all. Vin opened and closed her mouth a few times. And then she said, well, isn't life just made of wonderful people and odd moments? Nah, said Bryn, it's definitely made of cake and ale. She patted the seat beside her, and Vin was supplied with the aforementioned ingredients of life. And so, this tale of intrigue does not end as it started. The mysteries of life, I think, sometimes are better left uncovered, at least for a short time, the better to appreciate the moments of good company, good fun, and perhaps cake.
It's gorgeous.
Very good.
Oh boy, there was some excruciatingly familiar scenes. One being the venue that one cannot
Get into.
get into until an hour before the event, which is exactly what happened to us last week's spin.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know whether you remember, but we recently, it's only a few weeks back, we locked
The
ourselves
locked
out.
out thing. Well, that was why you requested the topic, and the pencil skirt was part of
Yes.
your story about that situation.
That's right. That's right, because the laundry window would be 7 feet from the ground.
Mm.
Maybe not quite 2 metres, would it, Barry? But it would be close to 2 metres from the ground.
It's quite high.
And of course, that goes into there's the washing machine, then there's the bench that I sew, and that has my overlocker and sewing machine, and I'd been sewing, so there was all sorts of stuff and scissors and, you know, things, and below that was
all of that.
a wheelchair. so it was a fairly perilous sort of
Very
thing.
perilous, more perilous, in fact, than stepping down into the urinal. But
possibly
not,
preferable.
not pleasant, maybe.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So yeah, and at least I knew what was in there, sort of thing. And that wasn't under time pressure. That was just actually we didn't forget our key. Our key just wouldn't open the door.
Oh.
We'd had a weird kind of jam on the back sliding door, hadn't we? Yeah.
A
So
funny
it was
one.
funny. So that was nicely done.
Oh, yeah, so some of those things that people said and things in my story are adaptations of things that are in real Twelfth Night. I had some quotes.
Yes. Yes.
What I really liked was, dost thou think, because thou art virtuous, there shall be no more cakes and ale? Somebody said, we're going to carry on partying. I don't care if you want peace and quiet, because, this is a nice celebration kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was this
Yes.
other lovely thing, well, God give them wisdom that have it, and those that are fools, let them use their talents. Sort of things about, you have to be clever to be the clown in a situation and, be very good at reading people.
Yeah.
And actually, those people are clever people. And just quickly, because our call's not got very long, so I'll start another one for a relaxed chat.
Okay.
But I really liked this particular myth about mirrors, which I sort of alluded to. But in Chinese mythology, the Mirror Kingdom contains creatures bound by magic to sleep, who will one day rise again to do battle with our world. When we catch glimpses of movement in mirrors out at the corner of our eyes, it is the stirring of these creatures.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Oh. So I got that reference, and it also that was related to something in China, but it wasn't something I knew about.
No, I didn't know that one. So I just looked up about mirrors, and of course there are all these things about the 7 years bad luck if you break one and stuff. The reasoning behind that, which I found out, is that people believe what you see in a mirror is the reflection of not you, but of your soul. And your soul regenerates every 7 years. So when you shatter a mirror, you shatter your soul. And then it takes 7 years before it will regenerate.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh,
So that's the same reasoning why some mythological nasties like vampires can't be seen in a mirror, because they don't have a soul. That's the idea.
How
I
interesting.
find that quite interesting.
I'd always assumed that the 7 years bad luck was just to do with the value of mirrors.
Yeah,
think
I assume that is
they
why,
were
really.
painted. I think they might have been painted back with mercury or lead or silver, possibly silver. You know, just silver-backed glass, and therefore would be quite valuable. So if you broke them, that's what I'd always assumed. But
Yeah.
that's.
Well, I think that must be where it originated. Yeah, the fact that mirrors were worth such a lot.
Yeah.
But
Well, 12 is a lot of fun. I mean, it is. When you go back and look at it, you don't understand it when you're forced to read it in year 9 in high school.
no, 12th Night.
But when you go back and read it, it's actually a very funny play.
It is. There's some
mean,
gorgeous stuff in it. The one that I sort of did in my own words at the end. Does not our lives consist of the 4 elements? Somebody says, and someone else replies, faith, so they say, but I think it rather consists of eating and drinking.
That's very Buddhist. That's lovely.
But yes, so any requests for future topics we'll just do in comments on this one, so that we don't have to do another call that I tack on when I edit this video. So I'll stop that recording now, and then we can have a casual chat.
Beautiful.